that's taken by your adaptive immunity. That is the second defense system of our body. In this case, your body is dealing with such pathogen, with this specific type of particular bacteria, with specific type of virus, in such a way that it produces some antibodies, it produces some chemicals, and it is going to destruct that type of pathogen. So that's why it's also called the specific immunity. So that's why it's also called the specific immunity. So why is it called specific immunity? Because your body particularly forms the antibodies for a particular antigen, for a particular microorganism, for a particular virus. That's why it is going to protect your body from specific and particular pathogens. That's why it's called the specific immunity. Your adaptive immunity is the one that you acquired during your lifetime. That's why it's also called the acquired immunity. During your lifetime, it needs a stimulus. There must be some stimulus in the body that will produce such cells in the body to protect you. Suppose an antigen enters into our body, like we have seen in case of the COVID-19, as the COVID virus, the SARS-CoV virus enters into our body, it provokes our body's immune system, and our body is trying to produce the antibodies against that. That's how it works. Before that, it's not present in our body, but when the antigen enters into our body, it provokes the immune system. The immune system will produce the antibodies. That's what called as the adaptive immunity. So in the adaptive immunity, we have different types. We have, first is the humoral immunity and the cell-mediated immunity. In the humoral immunity, what is actually happening? There will be release of antibodies from the cells. So B cells are going to release the antibodies. And those antibodies have the receptor sites. The antibodies are going to really attach with the antigens, and then there will be antigen-antibody reaction, and the antigens will die. And they will destroy the antigens or the bacteria, microorganisms. That's how it works. Apart from that, we have second one, which is the cellular, the cell-mediated immunity. In this case, what happens actually is that when the pathogen enters, when the virus enters into our body, what happens? Our helper T cells, one of the type of cells, will be released. In the T cells, we have different categories. So if it is a T cell in our body, it is released from the lymphocyte. One other type of lymphocyte is the T lymphocyte. So T lymphocyte, we have helper T cells, we have helper T cells, we have cytotoxic T cells, and we have suppressor T cells, and finally we have memory T cells. And one of the important thing that differentiates the innate immunity from the active immunity or the adaptive immunity is the type of memory cells. Because in the innate immunity, there will be no memory cells. But here we have the memory cells. Whenever the antigen enters, it will be recognized, it will be remembered. And then the second time, if same antigen enters into our body, it will be fighted very soon. There will be an immediate response to that, and there will be immediate destruction of that pathogen. Now, what happens is that the helper T cells play an important role in this. So helper T cells will get activated as the pathogen enters, as the virus enters into our body. They will get activated, and what they will do, they are going to activate the cytotoxic cells, they are going to activate the suppressor cells, they are going to activate the memory cells, they are going to activate the B cells, and then they will be forming the antibodies. That's how the helper T cells play a very important role in our body. So now the cytotoxic cells have the ability, they are going to kill, they have the ability to cause lysis, destruction of the pathogens. And what is the suppressor cells? The suppressor cells, basically they are going to suppress whenever the immune system goes fast, whenever the T cells continuously are produced, whenever the response is going on, they are going to countercheck the effect. They are going to decrease the level of T cells, because already as the destruction of the immune system occurs, as the destruction of the pathogen occurs, now it has to be stopped, it has to be limited. So that time the suppressor T cells will play a role. And finally, as I told you, the memory T cells are going to recognize that type of virus, are going to recognize that particular type of antigen, and next time there will be already antibodies present in our body, they will be ready against that antigen. So that's how memory cells play a very important role. That was your cellular level. Now, apart from that, we have different classification of the adaptive immunity. As we have seen, we have the acquired immunity. So this is also called the acquired immunity or adaptive immunity. It's been divided into the natural acquired immunity and the artificial acquired immunity. So what is natural acquired immunity? The natural is something that's already present in our body, that our body is going to produce, that our body is directly, our immune system is directly going to deal with the particular antigen. That's very important, okay? So what actually happens in natural acquired immunity, our immune system is dealing with the particular antigens. Clear? Now, we have active and we have passive immunity. And apart from that, we have second one is the artificial acquired immunity. In artificial acquired immunity, our immune system, our own body's immune system is not taking part directly in the fighting, is not taking part directly in the defense system. Rather, it involves it involves the artificial type of antibodies, artificial type of vaccines or antigens that are going to attack with the microorganisms. So let us see them, okay? We have there also active and we have there also passive. Let us see the active natural immunity. Now, I told you our own immune system will be dealing with them, okay? So in this case, we have the infection. Suppose as the bacteria, as the antigen enters into our body, what will happen? Our body will start producing antibodies. That's the normal way. As the virus enters into our body, our antibodies will be produced by the immune system. That's what active is. It's a natural process. Second is the passive way. Passive means it's natural only, but a passive way. Passive, how it is coming? It is coming from the mother to the baby. So as a fetus in the mother's womb, the transfer of antibodies from mother to the baby through placenta, or it can be also through the mother's milk. As the infant takes the milk from the mother, sucks the milk from the mother, that time the antibodies from the mother's milk can be transferred into the baby, and that will act as the immunity, that will act as a defense system in the baby. That's the passive, but it's natural type of this, okay? Now let us see the artificial that we are introducing into the individual. So that was normal, that was naturally in a particular individual, that was already naturally in an individual, the immune system was dealing with that. Now we are going to introduce some conditions, we are going to introduce some substances, we are going to introduce some chemicals into an individual. It's called artificial acquired. And the active immunity, we have vaccines. So you may have seen in case of the COVID-19, everyone was getting the vaccine done. So why? Everyone was not having the COVID-19 infection, but everyone was getting the vaccine. That's coming under the active artificial way, because you are introducing a vaccine, you are introducing an antigen into the body. What is that antigen? It's either a dead, so it will be part of the bacteria, it will be part of virus that will introduce into our body, or it can be attenuated pathogen. That means its pathogenicity, its ability to cause disease will be reduced. So when it enters into our body, it cannot cause disease because already it has been changed, its effect has been changed. So as it enters into our body will produce antibodies against that. But it will not cause disease, but one thing it will cause, that is the memory, recognition. So whenever the second time the same antigen will enter, our body have already the antigens, they are going to attack that. That's how it works. You don't have the COVID-19 infection, but you have the immunity already generated by vaccine. So if the COVID vaccine virus again comes into us, our body have immunity, our body have antibodies to fight that. Suppose in babies you are giving BCG vaccine against tuberculosis, you are giving hepatitis vaccine against hepatitis. That's how you are protecting your baby. Already the baby is safe, but you are protecting him by giving the vaccines. Clear? Now last is the passive immunity. In case of passive immunity, it's an artificial. That means you are introducing. So what you are introducing? You are introducing antibodies in the baby. You are introducing antibodies in an individual. Suppose you are introducing the immune serum. You are introducing the human gamma globin that is acting as the antibody in our body. So they are going to protect. Now what is the difference between this natural and artificial? Here the immune system is working. Our own immune system dealing with the pathogens. Here in this artificial acquired, something new is introduced in our body and our body is going to protect that. That's how it works. And one more thing, what is the difference between active and passive? The active immunity is such, it takes time to produce, it takes time to activate, while as the passive is immediate effect. You are giving antibodies, directly they are going to affect. Here mother passes the antibodies, so directly they will attack with the pathogens. But in case of active, you need time to produce such antibodies to fight with your pathogens. Apart from that, the active immunity lasts for a long time, while as the passive immunity is for a very short time, short duration. That's about our adaptive immunity. Clear? Now let's move on to see one more condition, that is the immunoglobulins. As I told you about the humoral immunity, where there will be production of antibodies. So immunoglobulins, what are immunoglobulins? The immunoglobulins are also known as the antibodies, okay, and they play a crucial role in our immune system. They are a very important part of our immune system. What about them? There are several classifications. They are divided into several classes in our body, the immune system. And everyone have distinct characteristic and a specific function in our body. Coming towards the structure of the immunoglobulin, coming towards the structure of the antibody, every single class of the immunoglobulins have a same structure. That's the Y-shaped structure. Okay, so they will be having a Y-shaped structure. And remember that each Y-shaped chain have 4 types of chains. One is the 2 heavy chains, so they will be having 2 identical heavy chains and 2 identical light chains. Clear? Now, light chains will be similar in all types of classes, but why? That I told you the heavy chains will differ. They are going to differ them based on the type of heavy chains. Clear? So let us see what is the main action of these antibodies. What is the main purpose of these immunoglobulins? So these immunoglobulins are antibodies that are produced by the B cells in our body or the plasma cells in our body. They have a specific site on the heavy chain. They have a specific site on their Y chain. What is that? Whenever the antigen comes, it will bind with the specific site on the Y-shaped antibody immunoglobulin. Then there will be antigen-antibody reaction, and that's going to destruct the antigen, the pathogens. Now let us see what are all those antibodies, what are all those immunoglobulins. There are 5 immunoglobulins in our body. The first one is the IgG antibody. You may have heard about it, the IgG antibody. Why is it called so? Because the 2 heavy chains which are present are gamma heavy chains. Okay, so you can remember it, G for gamma. So there are 2 gamma heavy chains and light chains are same. Okay, now what about IgG? What is the purpose of IgG in our body? And one more important, that they are present in the plasma and the extracellular fluid. Apart from that, they can cross the placenta. So that means from the mother to the fetus, they will be crossed through the placenta. So a baby will be having the immunity. That will be which type of immunity? That's a type of passive immunity, passive natural immunity, that from the mother to the baby. Apart from that, they are involved in the complement activation of complement system. Then through that, there will be destruction of the bacteria or pathogens. The second class is the IgA immunity. The IgA immunity, because it contains 2 heavy chains which are alpha heavy chains. Apart from that, it is also called the secretory antibody. Why is it called so? Because it is mostly present in the secretions of our body. Suppose such as in case of in the milk, in tears, in mucus. So it will be always present in those places where there is a secretion. So only it will be transferred from mother through milk to the baby and provides a passive immunity in the baby. Now coming towards the third one is the IgM immunity. M for mu, so MEU, mu. So there will be 2 heavy chains, the mu heavy chains. It plays very important role in the formation of complement activation and also in the phagocytosis. Apart from that, in the ABO antibody formation. So it will help in the formation of antibodies, ABO, that we have seen already in blood groups. So it will be helping in the formation of those antibodies. And we have the IgE antibody. IgE, E for epsilon. So there are epsilon heavy chains, 2 epsilon heavy chains, and apart from that, it releases the histamine. So it plays role in the hypersensitivity, the allergy. So in case of atopic allergy, in case of the parasitic infections, you will see the antibody IgE will be very increased. And finally, and last, we have the IgD, which differs as the delta heavy chains. The delta heavy chains are involved in the activation of the recognition of the B cells. So antigen recognition by the B cells will be done by the delta cells. So this was all related to your immunoglobulins. How can you remember them? There's a simple, you can remember by the itself name, GAMED. That means gammed. Okay, so G for gamma immunoglobulin, alpha immunoglobulin, mu immunoglobulin, epsilon and delta immunoglobulin. So that are your 5 immunoglobulins which are very important in recognizing the antibodies, antigens, and then fighting with them. So that was regarding the immunoglobulins. I hope this you understood well. So see you in the next video. Until that, goodbye. Thank you.